Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Intuitive Guidance. Today, I have the beautiful Hailey with me, who is a shamanic practitioner. We randomly met at Remind Studio in London, where I work. We completely hit it off immediately. We linked up on Instagram. She randomly met a fellow practitioner of mine at a cacao training on the other side of the world. So there's lots of synergy happening. And I wanted to bring her on because I think that, Hailey carries a really beautiful energy. I think she's really grounded, and I think she's a good representative of what spiritual work, quote unquote, spiritual work can look like. And I wanted to bring her on to share some of her insights, her teachings, and the way that she works. And I guess I always like to begin with, like, where did your sort of journey into the shamanic spiritual space begin? Like, what was your entry point?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's really great also to connect again from London to this online
Amsterdam,
space.
yeah.
Yeah, to Amsterdam and to the ether. Yeah.
Mm.
So my journey it has been one that has been going on for a little bit. It was 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago actually, that I made the transition from law. I was a lawyer to figuring out what I'm meant to do in this lifetime. Basically, it all started with my desire to know who my soul is and what my soul purpose is. And
Mm.
that desire to know who I am and why I am here and what I'm here to do eventually brought me onto the path of shamanism and the work that I'm doing today. So it was
Mm.
really because of my own question that, yeah, that brought me. I really feel like that is what brought me to the path where I'm actually meant to be.
I mean, that is quite a switch, isn't it? From being a
Mm.
lawyer to becoming a shamanic practitioner. I suppose I'm curious about what made you go down the more shamanic route over other routes. Is that something that
Mhm.
sits within your heritage? Like, what was the entry point into like shamanism?
The entry point, it was quite interesting actually, because as I mentioned, it started with my desire to know my soul and with that my
Mm,
purpose. So at a certain point when I felt that I found it, I also had that really strong desire to help other people connecting to their
mm,
soul and finding their purpose, because I'm absolutely not the only one who started in corporate only to decide realize that that is not who you truly are, and then go on that search. So I really felt that urgency to help those people. And at first, I did like this coaching certification, and I had this 12-week program to help people discover their purpose and all of that. And what really changed it for me was when ceremonial cacao came on my path. And
mm,
for me, how I experience this beautiful plant is that she opens the heart, but with that, also the ability to access your soul. Because in shamanism, the heart is seen as the seat, the home to the soul. So when you open that part, suddenly you are able to connect to your essence and your spirit self. So when I did my first proper cacao ceremony and I had that experience, that felt like this missing puzzle piece where it felt like, okay, this is such a beautiful way to do my work. But then I also
mm,
realized that when it comes to working with the plant spirit, there's so much more to discover. And I wanted to know everything about working with the spirit of cacao. And that is how shamanism came on my path, or yeah, how I found my way to shamanism. And then
mm,
there, it felt like this other puzzle piece, this feeling of
mm,
homecoming, because my entire life I had this feeling that somehow I was meant to be, well, more psychic than I actually was. But I tried a couple of things to open up that part of me to be able to connect to spirit and to
Hmm.
receive guidance from spirit. But I never really found my one thing. And then I stepped into shamanism with the desire to help so that it would help me know more about cacao and work with cacao. And then suddenly it helped me to, well, become psychic, so to say.
Yeah.
So it was like,
That's,
what? Yeah.
I mean, wow, there's so many threads that I could pull on, which I mean, there's like, I just heard like three different things that I would love to kind of ask you about. And I suppose one of them is like, because I suppose my understanding of shamanism is that it's very close to like animism, I suppose that everything holds a spirit, right? And because you
Yeah.
would sort of, you mentioned words such as plant spirits and so on and so forth, and that's that everything
Mm-hmm.
has a spirit. I suppose I'm curious about, because there will be some people who's listening to this and you say, and we've just used the free phrases here like plant spirit and cacao ceremony, and people are like, what? Cacao
Yeah.
spirit, cacao ceremony, spirit, something. What's that? What are they doing over there in this sort of spiritual space? It'd be lovely to like, as opposed to get a bit of a deeper understanding of what like a cacao ceremony entails and why is it that that specifically opens the heart, and then I guess also what are some specific shamanic practices that you felt really opened up your psychic abilities? And maybe they're the same. Yeah.
Mm. Um, so want to start with the cacao ceremony, what that is?
Let's start
Yeah.
there. Let's start
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So in shamanism, ceremonies are really this big thing. There are these portals that you open to the realm of spirit. And
Mm.
with that, it is everything, as you said, is alive around us. But there's also this almost parallel universe. I mean, I don't have to tell you about this, but this parallel universe that is happening right alongside of us, where
Yeah.
these helping spirits reside that we can tap into to make a connection to them. So ceremonies are a big part of the shamanic traditions, and it depends
Mm.
on, well, the tradition and the location, what kind of ceremonies they do. But plant medicine ceremonies, they originate more from Mesoamerica and South America.
Mm-hmm.
And cacao is the sacred plant that is found in Mesoamerica. So
Mm.
Mexico, Guatemala mostly originally, or from the older days, the Mayas would work with ceremonial cacao for their rituals and for their
Mm.
sacred ceremonies. So they already discovered that ceremonial cacao is a beautiful plant that just helps you to make that connection to spirit more easily. Where in other traditions, there are other kinds of plants like, well, very popular and familiar, ayahuasca, for example, but there are
Mm-hmm.
also the mushrooms or San Pedro. Those plants open up your psyche so you are able to connect to spirit. And in Mesoamerica, cacao is the plant that is used for that. She's way more subtle because she's not a psychedelic kind of plant,
Yeah,
but
sure.
but I find her, well, even more special almost, because she helps you to come connect to your own wisdom. So instead of taking a plant that brings you out of your body, she helps you to connect deeper into your body, and with that, find the wisdom and the answers that you can find
Mm.
from within. And that is why, for me, she's really that plant that connects you to your own spirit. She opens up that part of you that is already there, but you can forget when you go through daily life.
Mm.
Now, in cacao ceremony, you drink ceremonial cacao, and then you drop into a practice that helps you to connect to your spirit.
Mm.
And for me, the modality that I love to work with the most when it comes to that is the trance like state.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also what was so transformational for me when I stepped into the shamanic practice to discover trance. and with that induce that heightened state of awareness within myself, where I'm also able to talk to well, all kinds of spirits, where before I wasn't able to make that connection. So that is how for me they came together, where
Mm.
there is the cacao that opens you up, but because she is not a psychedelic, she doesn't take you over and take you on this trip. It is really helpful to have a practice alongside of it that helps you to make use of that openness that she creates. And then,
Mm.
yeah, trance is really, really helpful and really, really beneficial. And in my ceremonies that I do for groups, I use the trance journey as well so people can journey for themselves. But then in the work that I do, I also use trance, but then to work with the spirits on behalf of my clients. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, sure.
it's always like way, way deeper and deeper themes, more related to, well, deep healing.
Mm,
Yeah.
sure. So, um, you called her she. So I'm guessing, just out of curiosity. Now I'm like just curious. So I'm guessing that means she's a female, holds a female energy. Are there similar plants that holds a male energy? Now I'm just curious.
So let me think. Ayahuasca is referred to as Mama Ayahuasca. So
Mm,
that is also a female plant
yep.
spirit. I believe that the mushroom is referred to as more like a father spirit, has more like the
Right.
fatherly
Yeah,
qualities,
yeah.
and I believe peyote or as well. That's the cacti.
Mm,
I believe that that is also the more that or a masculine
mm.
spirit. Yeah.
How interesting. I wonder where or what it is that or where that sort of comes from, that sort of female and male energy. Like what is it that
Hmm.
sort of qualifies them as that, basically? Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
curious. Yeah, because it's interesting because I looked into sort of Vikings, because obviously Vikings would also have had shamans and shamanic practices.
Yeah.
And apparently I mean, they would have eaten some mushrooms at some
Hmm.
points, but
Yeah.
because obviously, like in South America and so on and so forth, you have ayahuasca and all of these kind of stuff. But apparently, in the Viking culture, it wasn't so common to use psychedelics
Hmm.
basically as a part of their journeying. Because I looked into it. Obviously, I may not have done such a deep research, but I thought that was quite interesting. But they must
Yeah.
have used some mushrooms because I'm sure there are also mushrooms in Norway or Sweden or Denmark that will make you hallucinate, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Mushrooms are way easier to come by, of course. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure that for like more European traditions, that is also part of the practice. But what is
Mm,
really great, what I discovered when I stepped into the shamanic practice, is that these plants are really helpful and sacred and beautiful. But at the same time, you don't need any of
mm,
those plants to get into that state where you're able to connect to spirit. What those plants do is that they make it just a bit easier to bypass the ego and get into that trance like state. But if you have a drum or a rattle or a track of a drum or a rattle, you can already get into that state where you're able to make that connection. So you don't need it if you know what you are doing and you are able to become hollow bone, as it is called
mm.
in the tradition. Then you are that clear vessel that can connect to spirit, and then you don't need it.
Yeah,
So
because I mean, I
yeah.
use a lot of trance in my work with myself and in my
Hmm.
practice, and I've never tried. I've actually never. It's so weird. I've actually never done even cacao. Like I've
Oh
never done
wow.
it. Yeah, I've never done cacao, never done ayahuasca, never done any hallucinatic sort of medicines, and yeah, I don't know why I've always sort of found it quite easy to
Hmm.
drop into that space or drop into that state, but that's just always something from like the first time I learned how to do it,
Yeah.
basically. I just
Yeah.
sort of got into it. Maybe it was a teacher I had, and we just sort of
Yeah.
gelled really easily.
Hmm.
It must have maybe been something there. It's interesting. There's a part of my, I mean, I think the reason for I have three planets in Virgo within
Hmm.
my natal chart, which does make me somewhat of not a control freak, but I do like to have control, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of taking psilocybin or ayahuasca, the thing is, when you start, you
Yeah.
just have to ride that wave
Hmm.
until it's done,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. True.
And there's a part of my brain which is just like, I'm not sure if I'm willing to take the risk
Yeah.
or if like the return on investment is high
Hmm.
enough, basically.
Yeah.
My logical brain
Yeah.
goes, is the return on investment high enough? I'm really curious,
Hmm.
but there's a part of my brain which is like, ooh, maybe it's my
Yeah.
Norwegian sensibilities. It's like, maybe not, maybe not. A little bit risk averse, you know?
Right. Yeah. 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 No, but at the same time, um, these they're all portals, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah. And
eventually,
yeah, yeah, the science shows that it's most of the time totally safe.
well,
You
I
know?
mean, it's just like, I mean, in the Netherlands, we love to ride our bike to get to from A to B.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, like, other people use a car, or you use a
Yeah.
boat, or you use a bus. So there are all these vehicles that we can use to open the portal to the spirit realm.
Mm,
But if you don't need it, then why would you? And at the same time, we all, it's just like we all have our own flavors. And you
mm,
mentioned before, like why shamanism and not any
mm,
of the other modalities to connect to spirit and to the soul. And then I guess, like, for me, that was just the flavor that helped me to open that portal to my spiritual self and the
mm.
gifts that I have. And for other people, well, there are other gateways and portals. But you are absolutely right. Like, if you take a psychedelic kind of plant, you're in it. You're going to have to
You're in
wait.
it.
Like, and it can be like 6 hours. And if you
Yeah,
the plant is like kicking your ass, then yeah, you have like
yeah, yeah. It
six
could be kicking your
challenging
ass
hours.
really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But at the same time, cacao is not that type of plant.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
doesn't take you over because she's not that a psychedelic. She's a psychoactive, so she doesn't take over that your conscious mind. So
Mm,
that is also why I love to work with her, because I'm not fully sure about my planets, but just that feeling of being in control.
mm.
That, yeah, I prefer that as well. But that is also why I never really drank a lot of alcohol, just because I feel like it is good to be in my body, and with that
Mm,
to have being able to connect to my spirit in that sense. And for other people, it's in a different
mm,
way. So, yeah. And
mm,
if it hasn't called you,
mm,
then that is absolutely fine.
mm. So I'm curious about when people come to Haley for a session,
Yeah.
right? Let's say you're a corporate, corporate girly or a corporate
Mm-hmm.
man, a corporate woman, and you're coming to Haley
Mm-hmm.
with struggles in your career.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're struggling with. They're struggling with finding purpose and meaning. It just feels like sort of like a dead end, but they know they have to do it because it pays the bills.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work with them?
So how I work is that I love to go to the root. So
Mm,
often when I go into a conversation with the people that come to me, there's often a certain pattern that keeps repeating, something that keeps holding them back. Maybe if we would look at this example where someone is in a corporate career and it's not fulfilling them, but how are they going to get out? There is something that is keeping them stuck. And in that belief that that is what it is that they need to do, and then because of that, probably certain things repeat themselves. Maybe they have the intention to figure out what it is that they want to do next. But then eventually, when it really comes to taking action or making that change or really going for it, something pulls them back. Now, often, almost always, there's something deeper underneath. So instead of only looking at what is happening in their daily reality, or in shamanism, that is the middle world, this reality, what is happening here, it is more interesting to figure out what is the energy that is underneath, the root that is creating in their daily life those patterns to happen, or those feelings to service, or those decisions that they've made, that they made it because there is a certain belief that keeps them in that system. That is where we go to look at what is underneath. And then with the help of channeling, of shamanic journeying, shamanic healing, I go into this trance-like state to connect to their soul and their spirit team. First, to also get more clarity of what is it that is going on. Where is this coming from, and what kind of healing is needed? Sometimes it can be that they're stuck in those patterns because they've lost a part of their spirit. In shamanism, it is believed that all of us, we lose a part of a spirit when we go through something shocking or traumatic. And to a certain extent, we all go through something that is shocking or traumatic, which can be like a car accident that you have, but it can also be that you lost your favorite toy when you were 4 years old, and because of that, you know, that shocked you so much that a part of you was lost. So then often that is something that first needs to be restored, because you keep trying to fill, for example, that hole with your job title, with money, with certain addictions or certain patterns that you keep falling into. Not because you don't want better, but because you are not able to do better, because you're not fully whole in yourself. So then it first starts with getting that back. Sometimes it can also be that there are energies stuck to a person because of traumas or situations. It can also be ancestral. If we get really spiritual, then it can even be that it is because of past lives that have happened,
Sure.
where certain things that have been unresolved and now are still happening in this life that are still attached to you. So then those things first need to be resolved. So before we can then look at, okay, now that you are whole and healed, how are you going to then make that transition from corporate into that what your spirit really wants to experience in this lifetime? So it is looking at what is happening in your daily life, going to the root of that, understanding it, but also healing and solving it, so that then you can make that transformation into your life, because that is when you have the foundation on which what you truly desire can really grow. Does that
sounds
make
like
sense?
yeah. I mean, makes sense to me. I'm not sure if it makes sense to people who are totally new, but yes,
I hope
it
so.
makes absolute sense to me. And do you sense that, because of course the work that you and I do are, somewhat edgy and unusual, I guess. And do you sense that there is a more, because just before we came on, you were talking about pre and post COVID and so on and so forth. Like, do you sense that there is more of like an openness towards this more, let's call it spiritual, shamanic, intuitive approach to life?
Yeah, 100%. People are so much more open to it and so much more curious. And actually, today I had this intake with a new client, and I really had to laugh because she was like, yeah, I'm really rational, I'm really down to earth. She was really like an earthly woman, but then she was struggling with a couple of things, and I was like, But then it's really interesting that you decided to go to a shamanic practitioner with what it is that you were struggling with. And she's like, yeah, actually, that is really interesting because she's just so down to earth and not necessarily really spiritual, but still she's open and believes that for her, this working with this healing method is going to help her with what it is that she's doing and or what she is going through. And I thought that was just so interesting. It's not only the people who really have that yoga practice and have been on the spiritual path that find their way to me or to the shamanic healing modalities, but also, yeah, people who are more in the corporate world and not necessarily spiritual at all. So that is just so interesting.
That is interesting. I suppose I'm curious about, do you see some trends, I guess, in terms of what people come to you for? Like for me, for example, with a tarot reading, there's a
Yeah.
lot of questions around love and relationships.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
questions, which is fine, it's a huge
Yeah.
part of life.
Hmm.
So I suppose I'm curious for you, like, what are are there any recurring themes that people come to you with?
Yeah, definitely. Um, People do often come to me when it comes to their work and basically the next step, like what are they meant to do? How are they going to find more fulfillment? What is the path that their soul wants them to take? That is definitely something that I often see people asking, bringing in for sessions. Um, Also, that desire to just be more connected to themselves and their spirit or intuition is a big one, and the request for desire for peace, for
Yeah, yeah. I get that a
groundedness
lot
and
too, yeah.
calmness. Yeah.
So when it comes to people in their corporate job, like, is the result often that they sort of shift out of corporate work, or is it about, do you often find that it's more about finding acceptance to where they are and sort of remain being able to stay where they are, but like creating more acceptance and meaning around it? Like, what's often the outcome there, I suppose?
Um, that's a good one. Because there is this difference between knowing what it is that your spirit wants and then taking action, actually doing that. Um, but what I have seen is that sometimes when they know what it is that their spirit wants to experience, they're able to find that experience within their corporate job or maybe in their daily life or how they approach life. And with that, it becomes more, well, easier to just endure or to stay in that job. But often, at some point, a transition is made. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's out of corporate, but then they know better what their values are and what it is that they need to be okay and, yeah, allow their spirit to have space. So, yeah, it's not one answer. It really depends per client, and often transition also takes time.
Oh yeah, it usually
Yeah,
takes time. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, as we
it,
know.
it really does, and yeah, so it can be like a period of 1 or 2, or maybe 2 to 4 years even before people are really ready to take that jump. But at the same time, that is okay. You need to have the time to become more comfortable, get to know your spirit, and then, give yourself the time to let go of the identity as well that you created and to allow your true identity to come forward and lead. So, yeah.
So you've been in this space full time in just over 10 years, stepping from lawyer into a more shamanic journey. I suppose, that's like a decade, it's a
Hmm.
good chunk of time.
Yeah.
What do you feel like, or have a sense of, what is the next evolution? Like what is the evolution that Haley is going through? Like, where does it feel like you are to being guided next? Or maybe you're content just where you are, or maybe there is sort of like a next phase that you're moving into? What is that? Where are you at on your own journey of development, I
Yeah.
suppose, and where do you feel like it's going next?
Well, I'm really curious about this one. Actually, I had to, as you are asking this question, I had a reading with an astrologer like a couple of years ago, and he told me that somewhere in my 40s, I probably would do like a PhD. And at that point, I was like, do they also do PhDs in watching Netflix? Because I cannot really I could not really see that happening. And I still have absolutely no idea if that is going to happen, and if so, how. But I have said if it would be possible to do a PhD in the soul, like all things soul, what is the soul? How can we connect to our soul? How can we heal our soul? I would absolutely be down for that. So going deeper into the wisdom of the soul, the journey of the soul, and how that, yeah, like, and the shamanic part of that, I can totally see that for my
Yeah, I
future.
mean, I'm sure there must be some sort of, I don't know, maybe there's like a, that's a lovely, it's a lovely thing actually, because I mean, I wasn't at university for way too long. I mean, I have like too many degrees, which I'm not using, um, and too much student debt as a result.
Right. My God.
Um, but I mean, I suppose it's like, is there some sort of anthropological study of like
Yeah,
shamanism and its practices, and
probably.
how does that, I don't know, relate to modern life?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something like that. How is it
Something like
made
that. Yeah.
practical for today, basically? Like,
Yeah.
where does it fit into this? I don't know. I'm just sort of
I
throwing shit
know.
at the wall.
Yeah.
But
No, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. Something like that. So maybe,
it is really, really interesting. It's like like an academic journey,
yeah.
like an academically philosophical journey of the soul in a
Mm-hmm.
shamanic way.
Exactly. Yeah. Who knows?
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
We were talking about just before we came on that the sort of, I guess, the spiritual practitioner space is
Mm-hmm.
expanding. There's a lot more people coming on the scene, and I suppose I'm curious about um, what do you think about that? Like, what are you seeing that you think is really good? And perhaps what are some of the, not to judge anybody, but like
Mm-hmm.
what maybe are some of the pitfalls that you're seeing, basically? I suppose what I'm looking for is also when clients are looking for a practitioner to work with,
Mm-hmm.
apart from ourselves,
Of
obviously,
course. Yeah.
what should they be looking out for? Like what are some of the signs that sort of shows that a practitioner is trustworthy?
Hmm. Let me think.
It's a really
So
tough question.
it is a really tough question. And what I've noticed is that the space has changed so much. When I made this transition 10 years ago, I also shared with you that at first I started teaching yoga classes. So it wasn't what I'm doing now. And like in the current spiritual space, there's so much. Of course, there's still yoga, but there's now also sound healing, and there's the tarot, and there are the plant medicine ceremonies, and kundalini activation, and all these kinds of things. So that is really wonderful, and that is also a product of this time where more people need this and at the same time are open to it. I've seen multiple of my students who used to come to my classes and my ceremonies, and then now they are also wanting to make that transition from their corporate job into becoming a facilitator or a space holder. So that is really a transition that I'm seeing, and more people are doing that. And with that, I guess you and I are the ones who went first and
Mm.
made the example that it is also possible to create a living and a livelihood without having to be in the traditional roles or the traditional titles. So that is really good. The tricky part, though, is that because there isn't a university track to becoming a space holder, it is fully free, which is beautiful. But at the same time, you also have that risk of people doing maybe one or two ayahuasca ceremonies and then saying, okay, now I'm an ayahuasca shaman. And with that, it can be that when you are seeking help and looking for a practitioner, that maybe you don't necessarily get help in a space that is the safest. So when you are looking for a facilitator, make sure that you really look into what are their qualifications. You don't have to go to university or a traditional training to get certified. But if someone only made a transition, I don't know, 1, 2 years ago, and they're already working with these big themes like heavy plant medicine or trauma, or then maybe you want to look for someone who has just a bit more experience and with that weight, so they're able to carry what it is that you are bringing into. But that also depends on what you are looking for. If you just want to have like a fun time and you are vibing with a certain facilitator, and it is, for example, for a cacao ceremony or for sound healing, then doesn't they don't need to have a PhD, but some knowledge of what it is that they're actually doing, that is good. And you can ask where they got trained and what their skills are, and look for feedback and reviews and testimonials of people who had an experience with them. And I made, I did an ayahuasca ceremony once, and that was while I was traveling, and I never thought that I would do something like that, but then it happened to align with my thought of maybe one day I have to do it, and then I was somewhere and they facilitated it there, and I just went and did it, and it was a super unsafe space. But that was also because I just did not do my research. I just allowed myself to get a little bit too spiritual and be like, ooh, this is so beautifully aligned. It must be a sign from the universe. But sometimes, you just need to use your mind and logic. Like, okay, yeah, beautiful sign from the universe, but then is this the person who needs to lead you and guide you? Is this safe? What are you doing? What is usual when it comes to the preparation for stepping into a ceremony like this, or working with a healing modality like that? Can you do that, in my case, while you are traveling and the next day you need to leave immediately? The answer is no. But so like, now I know that one will not happen again soon. But that is really dangerous and harmful as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
all of that really resonates. And like, yeah, sometimes you just have to use your brain and
Mm-hmm.
discernment.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it might feel like a sign from the universe, it's just your ego brain
For
going,
sure.
I want to do this now.
Now. Yes.
And sometimes you have to go, no, not
Exactly.
now. It
Yeah.
can wait. It
It
can
can
wait.
wait. Yeah. Or is this smart?
Are you a fire sign by any chance? Are you a fire
Yes,
sign?
I'm a Leo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, oh yeah, because me too. Which
Oh,
is
look at that.
which means we can sometimes be impulsive, you know,
Yeah.
and we have to be mindful of our impulsiveness, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, and I suppose another thing which I have noticed is I think everything you said is so correct, and that really resonates. I think another addition when people are looking for client, it's also like the transformational promise and the speed that that's meant to
Yeah.
happen at. You know, you've seen some people
Ooh.
who promote a one-off session, which is
Yeah.
like £1,000, and they
Yeah.
promise you overnight transformation, and it's just
Yeah.
that's just not how it works, really.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I
You
wish it
know,
did, though. Yeah. But it
I wish
doesn't.
it did. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But that is just not seemingly how the universe has programmed us, right?
No.
So I think that's another thing to be really mindful of. It's just the language that people use and the promise of transformation and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, you know, because all of these things, they take time, you
Yeah,
know, they take energy.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was also what I touched upon earlier when you asked about how my clients make that transition.
Mm.
It takes time. Things are opened, and then
Mm.
you need to get used to it. Your system needs to update, so to say.
Mm. Are you taking, so are you sort of teaching people to become shamanic practitioners, or is that not a space that you're in just yet?
I did run a level one
Yeah.
shamanic practitioner course, so that is more like the basics and introduction to shamanism and how you can work with shamanic trance and the
Mm.
worlds of spirit. Yeah,
Mm.
so that is
Is that
something
an
that
area that you're sort of looking to develop, or is it something you're sort of not looking at developing further?
at the moment I feel more called to be the one who uh, helps heal instead of teaching others
Yeah.
how to step into this space as well. So
Mm.
yeah, so at the moment I don't necessarily have the ambition to become the teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think that's
when
something that might happen more in the future, or is that sort of more for somebody else? What are your thoughts?
mm, maybe in 10 years with that I
Mm.
feel like yeah, when when I'm more like the wise older lady.
Yeah, and I mean, and in so many ways, that's so honorable, right?
Yeah,
It's so honorable.
yeah,
And understanding that actually becoming a teacher takes a huge amount of maturity and experience,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because you have, because as you know, as space holders, we have experiences with clients all the time, and it takes time to, again, to learn from those
Yeah.
experiences
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. It's like I was speaking to somebody who's done something for a very short amount of time, and now they are putting together trainings.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, but I was like, "Oh,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
That is
Right.
true.
Okay,
Yeah.
you've been doing this for this long, and now you're going to do a training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you, you know."
True. Yeah. Absolutely.
But it takes time to mature into your role
Yeah.
as somebody who can share that with somebody else. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And for
Mm.
me, I mean, it can happen alongside. I
Sure.
can be
Yeah, yeah.
the
I mean, I do a
student
bit of
and
teaching. Yeah, yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
yeah, and be
yeah.
the teacher at the same time. Um, but yeah, there is so much that can be learned and can be developed as well. And then what kind of a space are we creating when we're still learning
Mm.
everything and it hasn't fully developed and fully matured? And for myself, although it is interesting and people do ask me like, oh, that are you facilitating a training? I would love to learn from you. I would love to step into this space as well. What we just spoke about, right? That my students also want to
Mm.
leave their job to do similar work. Um, but at the same time, for myself, there's still so much that I want to give to my clients. But then when I step
Mm.
into the role of the teacher, there's only one of me, and 24 hours in a day is already not enough. So if I want to be the healer, but at the same time I also want to be the teacher, then I won't be able to do both at the level that I
Mm.
really want them to do. And at
Mm.
this moment, I feel more called to be the healer. And of course that can change. Maybe next year I feel like, oh, there's already like a little piece of the puzzle that I want to continue teaching others. Um, but yeah, that is how I feel at this moment, that there's still so much for me to discover, but also to share. And when I
Mm.
start becoming a teacher, then other people are going to share what I've learned. But
Mm.
yeah, do you understand?
Yeah, I mean that's so
Yeah,
mature and so honorable, and in so many ways, like
yeah,
absolutely the right decision. You know, that's really beautiful.
yeah.
So to start bringing things to a close, what I
Hmm.
always offer people at the end, if they want it, is a very short tarot reading, if you want one.
Oh yes.
Yeah? Do you want
Yeah,
a mini tarot reading?
yeah. What
Your
a
face is like,
what a beautiful surprise! I did not see that
yeah.
coming. So like, yes.
So obviously you know what you are getting yourself into.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a question or an intention or an area of your life that you'd like me to pull some cards on? Otherwise, we can also just keep it open. What would you like, Haley?
Yeah. So we've been talking about my work and the space that I'm in, and I have the desire to, well, also grow and maybe make some changes, maybe figure out how I can do that soul PhD. So,
Mm,
I'm really curious what Spirit wants me to know about yeah, this upgrade and
sure.
this progression that I feel like is coming. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's the next step in that evolution, I
yeah.
suppose, you know? Yeah, yeah,
What do I need to know about it?
sure. Well, I feel the color within your energy field that seems to be most prominent is that sort of orange and yellow seems to
Mm-hmm.
be very prominent and vibrant and strong within you, which obviously sort of speaks to that inner power which is within
Mm-hmm.
you, right? That inner drive, that inner ambition, that inner motivation. Um, there's nothing there which is like murky or off. It just feels very like
Mm-hmm.
strong, you
Yeah.
know, which is a really lovely energy to tap into. I suppose sometimes it's about maybe the struggle is how to like channel that direction in the right way, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's like an abundance of it. So
Yeah.
it's like bringing that into the right space, and I suppose that's also the question what we are asking about today, which is the this space of what is that evolution? Okay, so the three cards that I have pulled for you, I have pulled the four of wands, and on the
Mm-hmm.
four of wands, this family is sitting together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on this card, um, it doesn't mean that you're about to have a child. That's not always what it means.
That would be quite a
But
surprise.
well, that would be a surprise.
That is not an evolution that I expected.
Virgin birth. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But usually there is really a feeling here of there's something around you with the Four of Wands, and we are obviously pulling cards on your work, right?
Mm,
Is that within the Four of Wands, I always have this feeling of like community and people building a community
mm,
together. So I think a part of your evolution, obviously, like a PhD and that soul journey, is more of like a singular work. Like it's
mm-hmm.
something that you obviously would be doing by yourself. I suppose you would be
Right.
working with a supervisor, but it is something for yourself, right? And that's often the thing with academic work is that it's quite singular. And but I
Yeah.
also think that when it comes to your work and development further, is that, and I'm guessing you're already doing this with your cacao ceremonies and stuff like that, but I do wonder if there's an offering or something that you can do which builds like a stronger community, a more coherent
Mm-hmm.
community around what it is that you are working on that brings people together in that way, not just sort of, I don't know, create like a shamanic temple or whatever, like just as a framing basically,
Uh-huh.
you know, like a gathering place in that way, which is, I suppose, more authentically yours,
Mm-hmm.
basically. I think that's what really sits within the energy of this four of wands. Is like
Mm-hmm.
how can you build a space which is even more yours and has a
Mm-hmm.
stronger sense of community around it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really what's in that four of wands. Is this something that you are doing already? Is this something that you were thinking about?
It has been coming into my field. that I am meant to somehow do something with community.
Mm.
So yeah, it hasn't been made clear yet how I'm meant to do it, but it keeps coming back. So I do think it's really interesting that you are mentioning this. Yeah, that you're mentioning it because it feels like okay,
Mm.
yeah, okay, maybe I need to start listening. But then
Yeah, and
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's
and
so hard with like
yeah,
in-person spaces,
mm-hmm,
right? Because of
yeah,
money and cost
mm-hmm,
and
yeah,
overheads and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. So it's obviously
yeah,
about being creative with it, I suppose. And I guess maybe the reason why I used the word like a shamanic temple, there's something in that about
mm-hmm,
creating space which
yeah.
is like authentically yours,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. And that is really head on, like creating that space that is mine, that is authentically mine. That is
Yeah, it's
absolutely
almost like
part
I
of the
suppose it's
path
more.
that I'm on now.
Yeah, I suppose a better word for it is like a ceremonial space.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
better word for it, I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a part of your, I think that's part of your journey. Interestingly enough, I think, so the next card is the Ten of Cups,
Mm-hmm.
and it's reversed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and what we're thinking about is your work and the next evolution that you are on. And I think this probably means that I don't know how much you collaborate with other practitioners or if this is something that you do, but this probably tells me that there's probably some of those collaborations which are now outdated,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which means that there's new people that need to come in which
Mm-hmm.
are able to pull you forward
Mm-hmm.
towards that evolution that you're looking at. So like you have to start collaborating. I mean, this is going to sound really wanky what I'm going to say now, but it's about collaborating with other people who's like at your level, basically. That doesn't mean that the people you've been working with aren't good at what you do,
Mm-hmm.
but there's something about you
Mm-hmm.
also then surrounding yourself with people who are sort of can match you where you are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a part of your evolution. Is this something that's been within your mind and that you need to be sort of considering?
Yeah, definitely. And that um, goes into maybe more into what the other card represented, that authentic space that
Mm,
is mine. So be in order to be able to go into a space like that, some new collaborations need to
mm,
happen. Yeah,
mm.
I
Yeah, so
see
it's
that.
just
Yeah.
yeah, collaborating with people who can meet you at your level,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I think that's
absolutely. I do feel like um, I'm going through a couple of transitions because it does feel like the level I've been working at, this one I need to up level a little bit or find a different level, different energy. So yeah,
mm,
matches.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the chariot reversed. And what
Mm.
do I think this means in this moment in terms of what's the guidance there in your evolution of your work? What does that mean? It's almost like it's like I can feel like resistance when I'm sort of feeling into that energy, and it's weird because I don't feel like you are someone who is afraid of taking up space or afraid of showing that Leo energy. But that's also what I'm kind of feeling. Like there's actually certain places where you are afraid of showing up fully, basically. And I don't know why I'm using the word afraid, but that's what's
Mm.
coming to me right now. Because the thing with the chariot, right? He's standing there very prideful, very strong. He's been out to battle and he's coming back and he's like, I freaking did this,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, this is reversed. And that
Mm-hmm.
tells me is that there's a part of you who doesn't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, again, to step into that next evolution, there's a part of
Mm-hmm.
your belief system in yourself which
Mm-hmm.
is holding you back.
Yeah.
And that has to be transformed, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is a certain vision that I have and a calling that I feel. Mm, but because it is still in that unseen world, sometimes doubt or fear or
Mm,
can come in. Yeah.
mm,
So that
mm.
is also really human and something that yeah, unfortunately, yeah. It's
Unfortunately.
unfortunately it is interesting because there is the Leo energy, there is that chariot energy, but then absolutely there's also
Then there's the
this,
human mind,
and there's the human mind that is also afraid or unsure about that what has not yet come into form. Also
Yeah.
because like I'm still creating those beginning pebbles as well. So I can
Mm,
imagine that as soon as I'm able to get the first proof, I guess, the first results, with that it becomes more clear that the
mm.
fear that can also be there will start to fade. But I'm aware of that what wants to hold me back, what is
Mm,
happening in my own roots, what we talked about with the work that I'm
mm,
doing with my clients. I also have to do the work myself.
mm.
Unfortunately, I'm not enlightened or free from any of those things, but I am aware, and with that, very actively working on it. This is
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
this reading is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm sort of working on at the moment, or the energy that I'm kind of working with, and it resonates with what you just said, is I'm working a lot with the word devotion.
Ah, yeah.
And
Mm.
and it's about moving for me. I mean, there's lots of areas of my life where I truly embody that feeling of devotion.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's
Mm.
about move, but, there's still fears and doubts and
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, right? So I'm sort of what I suppose what I'm personally feeling into right now is that sort of shifting entirely, which will never be possible, but at least you can
Mm-hmm.
try, is to move entirely from that energy of doubt to
Yeah.
devotion, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And that sort of entire reorientation to
Mm-hmm.
just sort of emerge from that
Yeah.
energy of devotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of trying to channel or transmit or
Mm-hmm.
embody that energy of
Yeah.
devotion, basically.
Yeah. 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 And then you'll probably also have like good days and weaker
Bad
days,
days.
days where you're really into devotion and you're like, yes, I've reached that next level, and days where fear and the doubt will pull you back. That also
Yeah.
brings me like back to your question, like what to look into when you are looking for a facilitator. If a facilitator says like, I'm free from any fears and any doubts,
Yeah.
I'm fully enlightened, and really that's a red flag. Then you need to
That is
leave.
that is a red. If there's something that is a red
Yeah,
flag, that is a
that's
red
a
flag.
red flag. That there's no such thing.
Do you work with the tarot or any kind of deck?
I do. Um, I work with I work with the tarot and also with Healing Waters Oracle of Rebecca Campbell. Yeah.
Do you want to pull me a card?
Ooh. No, I don't have that deck over here. Oh my. No, I have that. I have that in my living room.
Darn. I was
So
gonna get
I,
you
I
to show.
do, but like not at the moment. But
I was gonna
later.
get you to show off your skills, basically.
Right.
That's what I was gonna.
Yeah.
That's all right. Next time. That's totally
Next
fine.
time. Next time. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Any Don't worry about it. Next
Yeah.
time.
Next
Is there
time.
any final words or wisdom you want to share with our listeners?
Ooh. Yeah. Let me think. So, what is good to remember is that in this conversation we've been talking about these different parts of ourselves just now, the devotion and the doubt, the expansion and the fear. And with that, we have this human part of ourselves, our mind, our ego that is always there. But that is also the
Mm,
part of us that wants to keep us safe. And with that, it can also be that part that keeps us small and stuck in patterns, expectations, the comfort zone. But we all also have that wise part of ourselves, and that is the soul. That part of us is always calling. And my invitation would be to become more curious about that. You probably already know all the tricks that your mind has and all the things that your mind wants to lead you towards. But what if you would listen to that little voice that is underneath that, that whisper that feels like love and light and encouragement, inspiration? And what if you would give that more attention? That is your soul
mm,
that is trying to awaken you, and become curious about that, because everything that you need in life, you already have it within you. You are that soul that came to this planet to have this lifetime, to have a certain experience. So do yourself a favor, start listening so you can give your soul the experience that it wants to have in this lifetime, so that you don't have to reincarnate again and again and again. But you listen
mm,
to your spirit, and you can give your spirit that experience.
mm. That is
Yeah.
such a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you online? I'll obviously add in the description as well, but where can people find you?
Yeah, my website is haileynoa.com.
Great.
So very easy, my name, and on Instagram it is I am Hailey Noa. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for listening, everybody, and looking forward to seeing everybody here back again next time.
Thank you all so much.